Dog coat color genetics can be an intimidating field for a lot of people. Often the reason for this is that the kind of people who want to learn about it are motivated by their love for dogs and not their love for biology. Whether you're a dedicated dog breeder or just a curious owner who wants to understand your own dog a little bit better, this video will guide you through the basics of coat color genetics in an approachable and surprisingly culinary way. Let's start at the very beginning with DNA. You probably already know that DNA is the genetic material within a living organism that stores genetic information. It's like a cookbook with genetic recipes. These recipes are what genes are. A gene is a specific instruction within DNA that determines something like eye color, coat length, body size, etc. In other words, it's one specific recipe, like long hair lasagna or blue eye stew. Okay, so you know how different people can make the same recipe in different ways? You might like mushrooms in your vegetable soup, but when I make it, I add spinach and lemon slices. Just like there are different versions of a recipe for a specific meal, there are different versions of genes, and these are called alleles. So in our DNA cookbook, we might see a recipe for long hair lasagna and short hair lasagna. They are different alleles for the same gene, which in the case of my silly example is hair length. Alleles always come in pairs, one inherited from the mom and one inherited from the dad. And we represent these by using letters like B, D, KB, AY. You'll notice that some of these are uppercase and others are lowercase, and I'll explain that in a sec. So in any cookbook, there are page numbers, and these are for helping you find where specific recipes are. In genetics, this is called a locus. Locus means location, as in the location of a specific gene within a strand of DNA, or the page number of a specific recipe in your DNA cookbook. The plural of locus is loci, and there are about 18 widely recognized loci in the field of coat color genetics. Each of them refer to a set of specific gene recipes that affect your dog's physical appearance in different ways. You can think of loci as meal or drink categories, like appetizers, desserts, snacks, breakfasts, even cocktails. If you've had any interest in dog breeding in the past, you've probably heard the terms genotype and phenotype by now. Genotype refers to the technical genetic instructions of a dog. See, genotype, gene, it's a recipe. And you'll often see it written out like this. These are simply the allele pairs found at the most important loci for a specific dog. It's the different versions of a recipe found at specific page numbers or in specific meal categories, and they're usually listed alphabetically. In this genotype, we can see the genes for the A locus, the B locus, the D locus, the E locus, and the K locus. Okay, so if a genotype is like the written recipe for our long hair lasagna, the phenotype is like the food itself, however gross that may be. It refers to what the dog actually looks like. There are lots of different terms people use to describe this for coat colors and patterns, like black and tan, tricolor, brindle, chocolate, sable, recessive red. But the main thing to understand here is that though every allele will change a dog's genotype, that is, its genetic details, not every allele will change the phenotype, what the dog actually looks like. It's like how changing a small ingredient in a recipe, like adding salt or a subtle spice, will probably change its taste slightly, but you wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at it. Actually, you could have 2 plates of lasagna or stew or whatever that might look identical but contain slightly different ingredients. You know how certain ingredients have much stronger tastes than others? Let's say I'm making that lasagna, and I add 5 cloves of garlic. It wouldn't matter how much milk or tomatoes or beef mince I add, that garlic would be so strong that it would overpower almost everything else. Similarly, certain genes are stronger or more potent than others. We classify these as dominant and recessive genes, and we indicate this by using uppercase letters for dominant genes and lowercase letters for recessive genes. Let's compare these to garlic and potato. Remember when I told you that a dog will inherit one gene, or allele, from each parent at a specific locus? If only one of those alleles are dominant, so a clove of garlic, that is the gene that will be expressed in the phenotype, what the dog actually looks like. In other words, if you only have two ingredients and one of them is a clove of garlic, that is what you're going to taste in the food. And if both ingredients are garlic, well, you can probably guess what that's going to taste like. But what about that potato I mentioned earlier? In this example, it represents a recessive gene. And if all I have to work with in a pair of genes is potato and garlic, the only way that you'd actually taste the former is if I used two potatoes and no garlic. So, how does all of this translate into what a dog actually looks like? Here's an example. This is the B locus, and there are only two possible genes to pick from: black, represented as an uppercase B, and brown, represented as a lowercase b. As you can tell, black is dominant and brown is recessive. A dog will inherit either one of these from each parent, and the possibilities are as follows. Black, black. A dog with this genotype will obviously be black. Black, brown. Though there's one of each gene, the more dominant one, black, will overpower the other, and the dog will still have a black coat, though its genotype, its genetic details, will be different. Brown, brown. Here we have two recessive genes, which finally allows brown to be expressed. This is the dog that will actually be brown and not black. Okay, so here's a quick recap of what we've learned. DNA is a genetic cookbook for making a dog. Genes are specific recipes in that cookbook. Alleles are different versions of a particular recipe, and locus refers to the location of a set of genes, the page number of a recipe category. Genotype is the genetic written recipe behind a dog, and phenotype is the result, the physical appearance of that dog. Dominant and recessive genes are indicated by upper or lowercase letters, with one dominant gene being enough to change the appearance of a dog, but two recessive genes being required to do the same. If you want to test out your knowledge, you can start a 30-day free trial with Dog Breeder Pro, no credit card required. We have this genetic forecast feature that you've probably seen me use in this video, and it allows you to input different genes and see what a dog with those genes would likely look like. You can also match two dogs and see what their puppies would look like in addition to their genotypes. Just go to dogbreederpro.com to sign up. Once you feel like you have a solid grasp on all of these terms and concepts, you can watch my next video covering the two types of pigmentation in dogs. And if you have found this video helpful in understanding color genetics, please do me a favor and share it with someone who you think would benefit from it too. Thank you for watching, good luck, and bye!